Hello, friends. So let's talk about the will, free will, maybe. So it's quite controversial, it seems, on YouTube. I don't really get involved very much. It doesn't really. I don't have an issue with free will or no free will. Either way, it's fine by me. I was going to talk about the Advaita Vedanta point of view. Of course, we've got Schopenhauer in the background. If we mention the will, we have to mention him. So Immanuel Kant, said that everything is, time and space and all of this tools that the mind use to create reality. And I hope I'm not using the words incorrectly, but I'll just give you the general idea. They kind of, the world we see is all created by the mind, and the reality, the phenomenal, this is the phenomenal world, and the reality, the noumenal or the noumenon, is we can't know what it is. So it's a bit like in materialism. They say that everything we see is in the sensorium and outside our heads is completely different. And Kant says that we have no access to that. We can't know what it is. Now, Schopenhauer came afterwards and he said that we can know something about reality because we are looking through the mind, looking through all of this way that the everything's interpreted. And so we are actually coming from reality. So what we are is the only thing that we know is actually from the noumenal. So it's actually before all of this gets formed. So this thing, and he said, is the will. He saw it as some primal monster kind of thing. It wasn't a positive thing. It wasn't. He liked the Upanishads a lot, and he spoke about. He said the Upanishads were the greatest thing the human mind had ever come up with, or something like that. But he saw this, whatever, Atman, as being this primal will. But if we look at, so going back to the whole free will, no free will debate, it seems that Christians, and I don't know, maybe other religious people, I'm not attacking Christians, I'm a Christian. So Christians see free will as being important because when challenged with the problem of evil, and why people are bad, they say, well, God gave us free will. God wants us to love him from our own choice, because that's real love. If he programmed us to do it, it wouldn't be worth anything. So we're given free will, and therefore, so that we can love God properly. And so free will is important because it explains why there's evil. Now, so there's all these atheists arguing against this point of view, saying there's no free will, we're scientists, we're modern, we're scientific, we know that everything's determined. I'm not sure how much everything is determined. As I say, free will is not something I've really looked into a lot, but I know the Advaita Vedanta point of view. So the Advaita Vedanta point of view is that your subtle body is basically the soul in Christian language, but with the difference being that you, the Atman, are not your body, but you're also not your subtle body. The subtle body, yes, it goes from life to life like a Abrahamic soul might, but the subtle body will eventually disappear and kind of die. Not when the body dies, but when you get enlightenment. And the soul, from the point of view of Christianity and all the Abrahamic religions, is eternal. So that's a difference. Now, within the subtle body, part of it is the mind. Basically, the subtle body is all made out of mind stuff, but part of it's the mind, and we look through the mind, and the mind, we observe the mind. The mind is also an object to us, and the mind has these different parts. There's the manas, which is thought, but I think it's to do with the sensations, your senses, and dealing with that, and other things. I'm not really sure. And then you've got the buddhi, the intellect, which is the sharpest part of the mind that makes decisions, takes decisions, and then you've got the memory. And you've got, I think memory is called chitta, and then you've got the ahamkara, the I maker, the ego. And this together, what we consider will, when we want to do something, what's happening is it's not just, the main part is the buddhi, the intellect. So the intellect is what kind of takes decisions. But we have the influence of the memories and the tendencies that we have mixed with the ego. So the ego does all the deciding that it's me taking this decision, it's me doing this, I want this, I've decided to do this. And it's actually the intellect that takes the decision. Or wants to do something, wills to do something because of this collection. But all of that is part of the world. It's not part of consciousness. Consciousness is kind of, well, it's all made of consciousness, but consciousness is all what's holding all this and observing all this. So you observe your thoughts, so you're not your thoughts. You observe your ego, so you're not your ego. So you observe this will happening, this combination of different parts of the mind coming together to feel like it's willing to do stuff. But that's not you. That's part of the world. And really, it's part of part of nature, part of what they call prakriti, which is the world, and parusha is the consciousness in Sankhya, I think it is. And so you're not that. So you're not actually taking any decisions. Brahman there are no parts to Brahman. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't act because it doesn't change. It's eternal, unmoving, untouched, vast. You don't need to worry that you don't have free will, because you are everything. You are the nature of reality itself. It doesn't matter if you don't have free will. You are all that which all the wills happen in and are made of. It's all based on you. It's, you're no longer that person. I'm talking about if you have enlightenment, and even the truth of when you're not enlightened, you're not that person who's making decisions, as much as you're not some other person making decisions. The will of this person, the will of this person, if you see it from your true vantage point, it doesn't matter what James wants, what I want, or what somebody else wants, because you're observing from a point of view way out, and you're observing all these people in all of history, past, future, and all of that. You don't really care anymore what I want, what your separate self, the illusion that you had before you were enlightened. You don't care what it wants to do so much. I mean, yes, I imagine you might have compassion, something, you are Sat Chitananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. You're bliss itself. So there must be some love, your love, truth, and beauty. You are goodness itself. You're the value in all the world. And when you see it from this point of view, the idea of free will doesn't matter anymore. Now, just one other thing I'll go into about the argument between the atheists and the Christians online. Now, one good argument for why we don't have free will in materialism is that they've done brain studies, and they can see that the decision is taken before you are aware of it. So it happens in the brain before you actually decide to do it. So really, you are an observer. It's very much like what Advaita Vedanta says, that you're observer of this happening. You're observer of these thoughts happening, and it's actually after the fact. But the problem with this, so if materialists say that that consciousness evolved to help us survive. This is because it was beneficial to reproduce and all of that stuff. But if the decisions are made in the brain before we become aware of them, there is no causal link between the consciousness, between you deciding to do something. There's no causal link between this and the brain, the physical brain. The brain the decisions are made before you're aware of them. So everything you decide to do has already been decided. So there's no benefit in evolution to have consciousness. It's just icing on the cake. Now, you could say, oh, well, it's an epiphenomenon. It's just, it just happens. The thing is that the brain takes 20% of the body's energy. And of that, not all of that, the brain, is used for analyzing signals and things like that. A lot of it is about producing this sensorium, this kind of movie that we're seeing in our heads. A lot of the energy, the default mode network, the part of your brain that makes you feel like you, kind of like the ego, I suppose. I'm not a neuroscientist, but that takes up 60 to 70% of the energy of the brain. All of that, plus all the visual, the auditory parts of the brain, come together to create this thing. Now, humans went through times of famine. This would not have survived if it wasn't useful. If it was produced by the brain, it wouldn't have survived. It would have been like, oh, we don't need this epiphenomenon that's taking up 60% of our brain capacity, our energy. We've got no food at the moment. We're just going to switch that off for a few hundreds of generations because through the period of the Ice Age or whatever, we just don't need it. Because all the decisions are already made. Why do we need the icing on the cake? So we wouldn't have it. So the argument for materialists arguing that there's no free will, it works for me from an Advaita point of view, that this is the world, it's the nature, or it's the divine mother, if you want to be religious, that's making it all happen, Shakti. But you're just observing it. Now, if the consciousness is not a product of evolution, then it's fundamental somehow. You could say it's panpsychist, or I suppose we'll find that panpsychism will be the next thing that science adopts, and then eventually it'll go to idealism, and then from idealism we'll go to non-duality. That's my prediction for the future anyway. But yeah, you don't get very far arguing along those lines, I think. I think they're proving themselves wrong. Unless somebody knows something that I don't, please help me with this if you want to put a comment. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.